Wi-Fi Sheep would like to say a huge thank you to all of you that kindly support us. Help us continue to bring new videos like this. Join patreon.com/Wi-Fi Sheep from just $1 a month. Hello and welcome back to youtube.com/Wi-Fi Sheep with me, Tom. Well, it's arrived. I have here an OrangePi 800 all-in-one desktop ARM computer. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then where have you been? I've done 2 videos on the announcement and speculation already. And today, well, finally we get to test the real product. Be it a clone of the popular but slightly hard to get hold of Raspberry Pi 400 all-in-one system. It's going to be very interesting to see how well this stacks up given OrangePi's track record of rather subpar dev boards and poor OS software support. I should, however, point out that I'm in no way affiliated or sponsored by OrangePi, and a product I have purchased independently myself. I can, however, remind you that this video is sponsored by our partners at PCBWay.com, your one-stop solution. Alongside their high quality and fast turnaround turnkey PCB manufacturing, PCBWay also offers services in 3D printing, injection moulding, CNC machine tooling and sheet metal fabrication, in addition to regular offers on production services and purchasable products. And not forgetting the amazing PCBWayer maker community with hundreds of products and projects being shared daily. PCBWay.com really are a truly fantastic partner to have for your maker journey needs. So don't miss out. Sign up for your free account today at PCBWay.com. Details and links are in the description. So here it is. This is the OrangePi 800 or OPI 800 personal computer kit. This is the box it comes in, which yeah, it's quite nice, I guess. Simple. That's the back of the box. Not really much else to say, really. What I will say, though, is that the box is considerably bigger than the Raspberry Pi 400. That's the 400 box. You can see it's considerably bigger in size. Now, obviously, we're dealing with a product that is a clone of the Raspberry Pi 400, so we're going to compare it to the 400 because that's just the logical place to go. So let's take a look inside. And I have noticed here this sort of cardboard packing damage, it actually came to me like this, so I'm not sure what's happened there. But anyway, we've got glossy 2-sided instruction manual that we'll look at in a minute. Piece of protective foam, and the unit itself, here it is. And yeah, straight off the bat, that is considerably heavier than a Raspberry Pi 400. You also notice this sort of cutout here. I think originally it was meant to have some sort of power supply or something that was meant to go in here, and they kind of went nah at the last minute and didn't include one. But there was definitely something that was meant to go in that space. But anyway, I don't think there's anything else. No, just a piece of cut packing foam. And that's pretty much it for the box. So here is the unit itself. And it's very similar to a Raspberry Pi 400. In fact, let me just grab a Pi 400 and we'll compare the two. Okay, so Pi 400 is on the top, OrangePi 800 is on the bottom. This is going to get confusing. By the way, I know there's a little bit of a fisheye bend in the camera. It's just the camera and the way it's set up and I'm using, but I can assure you that is a straight line. It's not bowed like that in reality. Anyway, right, so the two units are actually, yeah, they're absolutely the same size. That can look a bit strange off camera that they're actually different sizes. They're not. I can assure you they are actually the same size. Keyboards. Now, one of the complaints with the Raspberry Pi 400 was that the keyboard is quite hard to type on. And I always said I actually had some cheap Chinese membrane keyboards, the sort of thing I use all the time, which are a very similar setup and design, and they actually feel much nicer to type on than the official Raspberry Pi 400. So the OrangePi 800 here. It's different. The keys are a little bit higher up there, off the membrane, a bit higher than the 400. It's alright. It's still a little bit hard. I'd prefer a slightly softer keyboard, but it's possibly a little bit better. Fractionally better than the official 400. I don't know. It's going to be down to your personal preference. Let's take a look at the back of these units. So there is OrangePi, and there is Raspberry Pi, and yeah, it's not quite the same shape underneath, so I think there's a bit more going on with the Raspberry Pi 800 as opposed to the 400, but the vents are in a very similar place. It's nice that they've actually got orange coloured foam or rubber for the feet here, and these are just plastic, and that's the same on the Raspberry Pi 400. I'm not sure what that is. If that's a speaker or a reset button or push pin reset button or something. But yeah, and also you can see here where it's obviously made in the UK for the 400 and we're made in China for the 800. Keyboard layout is almost the same, although you'll notice things like the power key here, which doubles up as F10, is on this one located over here. Delete is moved, and also you've got quick keys as opposed to functions. So the functions would be have to have function key and then functions, as opposed to being able to access those directly on the 400. There's another little notch here, which I'm assuming might actually be a microphone or something. And then you've got the LED array, which is in a slightly different order, and it's a smaller array. So it's not absolutely identical, but it's very, very similar. I'm just going to stand these up on their end so you can see the difference. There we go. So that's probably where the largest, the most striking difference is between the two systems. The GPIO is considerably reduced to a mere 26 pins as opposed to full 40 pin on the Raspberry Pi model. SD card has moved placement. Now, the big thing for me is the inclusion of a full-size HDMI and a full-size VGA connection. You'll also notice we've got external headphone analog out here on the OrangePi, and the USB and Ethernet network are in a slightly different place, as is the power USB-C power supply. So that, for me, I prefer this arrangement than I do on the official Raspberry Pi 400. You know that because of how annoyed I've been about having to use the adapters to adapt up every time you want to use the 400. And if you take the 400 somewhere to, let's say, do a presentation, this has happened to me, and you forget to bring an adapter, you can find yourself stuck pretty quickly because no one has any adapters to be able to get a video out of the damn thing. Also, I've had it where in some places like certain Raspberry Pi Jam events, and also even some exhibition halls, they're still using VGA monitors or VGA projectors. So not only, if you want to use a 400, not only do you have to then do that, you've then got to get HDMI to VGA adapter off the back of that. You've got this string of adapters to get this thing to work. And I have never ever liked this, and I've made no secret of that on the channel. The one thing about this I will say is the reduced pin header is, we'd moved to the 40 pin standard, and everything was using the 40 pin standard, so it means that adapters and things that you could get for the Raspberry Pi version obviously aren't going to plug into the OrangePi. You could get an adapter to, or make an adapter to make that fit, but you are going to lose some GPIO pin compatibility. I do believe though that the first 26 pins are in the correct order and compatible with the Raspberry Pi. And just finally here, two things I have noticed that we've got. That must be the speaker. This has built-in sound. The Raspberry Pi version doesn't. And the Raspberry Pi has that, I forget, it's got that key lock type thing for locking it to a chain to a table or something. And there's no security lock features here on the OrangePi 800. So let's take a look at the quick start guide. And it gives you the basic specification here. So we're running with 4 gigabytes of memory. Confusingly, it's called the 800, but it's running with 4 gig of RAM. And it runs the Rockchip RK3399 system level on a chip. What this does have, as well as the added sound and microphone, it has onboard flash memory of 64 gigabytes eMMC, which means that it should have the OrangePi Linux operating system pre-installed. The advantage of this unit, let's say over the Raspberry Pi, is that you do not need an SD card present in the SD card slot with an valid OS for this thing to actually work. And it also talks here about OrangePi OS, Android, Ubuntu, Debian, etc. So the operating systems it will run. We've already talked about the speaker, the microphone, audio, analog audio out, VGA interface. And then it actually goes through breaking down the full specifications here. So tells you what the GPU is. We've already talked about memory, storage, network, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, video output options, audio output options, audio input options. And there it also specifies about the CPU, the Rockchip RK3399 64-bit ARM dual core. Okay. Dual core Cortex A72 and then a quad core Cortex A53. So, right, okay. So I'm assuming one of those is a 64-bit running and one of those is 32-bit. So that's something just to watch out. It's not all distributions or software might actually take advantage of 6 cores at once. So it's just something to bear in mind. One thing it does talk about is it is capable of running OSs off SD card, but isn't necessarily needed. It talks about the power supply needing, and I brought this up before when I was doing the sort of pre-talks about this videos. It talks about 5 volts, 4 amps. And I don't have a USB-C type power supply that kicks out 4 amps. That's huge. Even the Apple supplies for the new Apple II Silicon doesn't produce 4 amps. What I have and what we're going to attempt to use is an official Raspberry Pi 400 power supply, and that's a USB-C, but these things are only rated at 5 volts and 3 amps because they don't do, this OrangePi that is, don't do a UK plug, there's a UK plug, power supply. They do a US supply and they do a EU supply, but they don't do one for the UK. Now technically we could use an EU supply, just use an adapter to adapt it to British plug standard. It would be the same current and frequency, that would work, but I didn't really want to go down that road. So it talks about power adapters here. So I thought we'll try it with the Raspberry Pi power supply and see what happens. It either won't boot or will boot and then have, it talks about keyboard issues, so we'll see how good that is. So let's plug in the power supply. Now remember, there's no SD card in this. I haven't done anything with this. This hasn't actually been on yet. I'm going to plug in a full-size HDMI lead, which is nice. This is going to a capture card, so you'll be able to see, hopefully you should be able to see on screen what I see. And then just off camera, I've got a mouse, standard USB mouse. We'll pop that into the USB 2 socket. So it's got one USB 2, two USB 3. It's exactly the same as the Pi. And we'll just pop that over there. Okay, so I think we're just about ready. We'll swap over to the capture card and we'll power up. Well, actually, I'll just show you here. So it's got a red light comes on for power. And we'll see if anything's going to happen. Oh, hello. Something is happening. Takes a minute. So there's a sort of OrangePi loading screen of some description. So this is running whatever operating system is preloaded on the eMMC flash storage. Okay. And right, okay, and is the mouse? Yep, mouse is there. So this is some flavour of Linux. So we've got some applications here. Settings. Bear in mind this is the absolute default OS as it's come shipped. Graphics, accessories, internet, Firefox is on board, multimedia, Office. Not much in the Office department. And system. It is XFCE, thought it was. So, yeah, so this is a Linux build. This is the sort of stock XFCE desktop. Nothing hugely special, but you know, it works. Well, it looks like most of the drivers and things are set up, because as many of you in the comments said to me that basically it's no good having great hardware if the operating system is rubbish and doesn't support it. And this has been a real problem with previous OrangePi products that I've had in the past. I had a OrangePi 0, one of the early ones, and it was awful. Absolutely awful. So, okay. Let's have a look at terminal emulator. There we go. So OrangePi. So I'm assuming there's no security on this. It's in default passwords. It doesn't ask you to reset passwords or anything. It just loads in as a sort of user. So that might be an issue. You may want to have to change your passwords. I'm just wondering what's the OS is underneath this actually, because I'm just out of curiosity. So I wonder if we have NeoFetch on board. Let's have a look. NeoFetch. No, we don't. Okay. That's interesting. Do we have Python on board? No, we don't. Python 3? Yes, we have Python 3. No Python 2 though. And I just wonder. Pygame? No Pygame on board either. So it looks like we are going to have to get online at some point and add some things to make this system usable. There doesn't appear to be any programming tools of anything on here. That was meant to be one of the big selling points. Oh, here we are, OrangePi config. Let's just have a quick look at that. Password for OrangePi. Okay. Right. Is it OrangePi by any chance? Yes, it is. Okay, so there is some sort of tool for setup, a bit like the Raspberry config in Raspbian. Okay, so it looks like there's some stuff that you could actually just install, including LibreOffice. So I suppose I probably should set up the Wi-Fi. I know a lot of you'd be curious to see how good the Wi-Fi is. So, let's see if I can actually get into my into my Wi-Fi. Got to go dig the password out now. So I will be back in a moment. Right, so I've just put my Wi-Fi key in and we have connected. It's a relatively strong signal actually, and that worked the first time, no real problem. So I wonder now, if back to this, if we can actually install the full LibreOffice suite. Wonder what happens. So again, I remind you, this is just all off-the-shelf default things on board the solid state OS on the eMMC So we're not running off an SD card. I have to admit, it's probably the first time I've ran a ARM Linux dev board type operating system without actually booting from an SD card. So we haven't got that bottleneck of the SD transfer protocol. So we should run quite fast if we just hardwired flash RAM. And 64 gigabytes of space is not bad for a flash RAM. And that's not too bad actually. That's gone for okay. Of course, it always sort of seems to get stuck at the 99%. You're like, is that the installing of it or what? I don't know. Oh, okay, we're done. Okay, that wasn't so bad. So let's go back. Yeah. Okay. Let's exit that for the moment. And you're probably dying to see what the internet's like. So let's go into Firefox. Now we're connected, we might as well test that out. So that was quick. That was very quick actually. And there's the privacy notice. So that's the default boot for Firefox. YouTube is an obvious place we want to go to. And obviously we want to go to youtube.com/Wi-Fi sheep. Because why wouldn't you? And let's play the intro. I don't hear anything, if I'm honest. It's playing alright. Quality, what's the quality we can go up to? 720p? Yeah, which is the maximum. Well, that's picture-wise, that's not bad at all. That's running really quite well, actually. And 720p, that is the maximum resolution that I put videos out at. But no sound. I'm not getting any sound. Right, let's try LibreOffice, which is always traditionally quite slow. That was fast. Blimey. Write a document. I have to be honest with you, I've said this already, I'm not experiencing or appear to be experiencing any problems with running the lower powered power transformer, only running 3 amps into the system. It's possible that the keyboard is perhaps has a slight lag. I'll also actually say, just going back to the actual device itself, that's beginning to feel, yeah, that's actually getting quite warm. Not unpleasantly warm, but I'm beginning to feel that it's actually getting a bit warm compared to, yeah, especially sort of around the back area. It's getting quite warm compared to the Raspberry Pi 400. It's never really got that hot, in all honesty. So, yeah, that's different. This thing is running a little bit hotter. But then again, it's got more cores in it. It's probably trying to do a bit more. So, but no, that seems fine. LibreOffice seems absolutely fine. So let's go back to terminal. Now we've got an internet connection. Let's try and get NeoFetch to work if we can. So I think what I will try and do, if this will actually work, is we'll go sudo apt-get, apt-get install NeoFetch. Password again, which at the moment is OrangePi. I will need to change that. Looks like it is Ubuntu. I may have answered the question for us. Let's see how fast this comes through. Right, so has that done it? Let's try. Yes, it has. There we go. And that tells me what I want to know, which is yes, Ubuntu 22.04. Desktop environment is XFCE, we knew that. And we're currently running 6 cores, and we're running at 1.4116 gigahertz, which is fast. And you can see the amount of available RAM it's loaded in the system. So we're just shy of 4 gigabytes of RAM, and we're using 1400 odd megabytes, so 1.4 gig of RAM currently in use. I have to be honest with you, I'm a bit annoyed about the sound at the moment. I don't quite understand what's going on there. You have settings for everything else. Let's try to look at settings manager. Alright, this is quite nice. Does it have a sound? There's that sort of sound. Right, so I've set that to that. Ah, there we go. Let's so that's going for the speaker in the unit. So it's a bit tinny, but that's not bad though. You know, if you didn't have sound on anything, once you can actually get it to work properly. If I'm right in thinking, doesn't the Raspberry Pi OS only go up to 480p on YouTube? It doesn't do like the H720 or the 1080p. I might be remembering that wrong. Someone in the comments correct me, but I have a feeling that on Raspberry it doesn't actually support the higher resolutions. So yeah, I'm actually quite impressed by that, if I'm brutally honest. Okay, hopefully you can see that okay. I've got out a old 4:3 aspect ratio VGA monitor, and here's the connector. So let's put the VGA into the back of the unit. There we go. That's now connected, so straight through VGA connection. Let's power back up and see what happens. Oh, there we go. And there we are, no problems. No problems at all. Straight in. And let's open up LibreOffice again, we just installed. Oh gosh, this is so fast. Yeah, that works. It works really well. As you can see, it's fine. I mean, it's fast, it's responsive. The VGA quality looks fine. Looks no worse than anything else. Keyboard options. There we are, some keyboard options. And we can actually set the layouts as well if we wanted. And that's VGA straight out the back of the OrangePi 800. So I guess at this point I need to come to some sort of conclusion. What do I think of the OrangePi 800 Chinese clone? Generally, I'm very impressed. It's so much better than I was expecting. It appears really solid and seems to work well. Yes, there are a few setup issues regarding sound, and it's not as together OS-wise as, say, Raspberry Pi OS. It's important to remember this product is not directly Raspberry Pi compatible, so many things such as hardware add-ons, projects, or recompiled closed source programs are not going to work or run straight out of the box. You are going to need some level of competence with Linux, as the Ubuntu OS used will need some setup work, again depending on what you want to do. As a desktop for light office work and web browsing, it was really solid, and I think worked faster than the Pi 400. YouTube, as you saw, seemed to work especially well as we got HD video streaming working. The keyboard's not terrible, on par with Raspberry Pi 400, maybe a little bit better. And mine seemed quite happy on the Pi 4 5V 3A PSU. I did think there might have been a slight keyboard stroke delay when typing, and I'm sure it missed the odd key press. This might be an issue requiring the 4A power supply, but it's certainly very usable on a lesser PSU. I think support for this is going to be key, and we'll have to see if a community builds up around it. I'm certainly going to use mine as a development daily driver for a while and see how it goes. After the recording, I did a few tests with my Tiny Basic setup and the Arduino IDE. It did need a little bit of setup so it could see the USB serial ports, but it did work, as did Minicom, which I installed. As I said before, I really like the full-size HDMI and VGA ports, plus the analog audio out for headphones and speakers, and the little built-in speaker, which could be really useful, if not a bit tinny. Now, we didn't test the onboard microphone, but I would expect that would be quite similar in tinny as well. An issue I do have at the moment is if you lock yourself out of the machine or need to reflash the OS on the eMMC, there's no apparent support or download for this as yet, and no other third-party SD card OSs that I can see. So I'm a little hesitant about doing too much with the underpinning OS Ubuntu kernel until I know I can reset the machine if needs be. So the big question, can I recommend the OrangePi 800? Well, with the exception of Apple Silicon, it's probably the best ARM-based system I've ever used. I do think this generally has the edge over the Pi 400. It's not perfect, it does have some setup issues, and it will suffer from lack of support over the Raspberry Pi OS, but as an actual computer, yeah, it's far, far better than I was expecting, and it's very usable. You do need to remember this is not the Raspberry Pi, it's not part of the Raspberry Pi ecosystem. It will do most Pi things, some it will do better, but other things it might not have the support or compatibility for. So for example, out-of-the-box RetroPie setups. But using it for IDE coding, web browsing, video streaming, and as a portable for presentations, something like that, I think this has the edge over the Raspberry Pi 400 due to its pure speed and better connectivity. For the first time, we might have seen a Pi clone product that's actually better than an official Raspberry Pi, and that's saying something. Anyway, before I go, and if you're watching in September or October 2022, a quick reminder. On November the 5th and 6th, 2022, I'm back exhibiting at the Cambridge Retro Computing Festival. This time, it's a fully open and packed event showcasing all things computing and gaming. I intend to bring a few things not seen here on the channel, and the latest builds from our Tiny Basic Computers project, including the 4-colour system. So, as always, it's a really great day out. Such an amazing show, and I really enjoy meeting so many of you. For full details, you can see events.wifisheep.co.uk. That's events.wifisheep.co.uk. And if you want to support me and this channel, you can by joining as a channel member via YouTube by clicking the join button. Tiers and prices are on screen now. Or by becoming a Patreon backer by visiting patreon.com/Wi-Fi-sheep. That's patreon.com/Wi-Fi-sheep. So if you haven't done so already, please do consider liking and subscribing. And as always, thank you so much for your company. And I will see you real soon, right here on the channel. Until next time, bye for now.